Why not?
Leader Fan Radio Network.
What does that mean?
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 50 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. It is a Tuesday edition of the Bumper to Bumper program on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. I am the host of the program, former Ink Stain Wretch, newspaper of the Twin Cities. My name is Dan Barreiro. There's a city in Portugal named Barreiro, and it is spelled the same way. I before E, except in Barreiro. Guardsy is G-A-A-R-D. Not G-U-A-R-D, not G-A-R-D, G-double-A-R-D. He is the producer of the program. He is, of course, the voice of Golden Gopher women's basketball, sideline reporter with PJ Fleck on Golden Gopher football as well. And I asked him late, typically, in my case. That's why we delayed a little bit early for the Why Not sound. It's one of my favorites from PJ Fleck, the Why Not.
Why not?
And I think it applies today, and in this case applies, dare I say it, to Major League Baseball. I don't know if you saw it, but, and we talked some about this last week, the owners with a new proposal for the next collective bargaining agreement. Much discussion about it, and then we were kind of waiting for official response from the union, and we've gotten it several times from several different individuals. And I'm here to tell whoever runs the Major League Baseball Players Union, the most powerful in all of sports, very successful, highly successful in a lot of ways, a union with a much, I think, more defined backbone historically than other unions for other sports. All that being said, I'm here to tell the union people, not going to work. Your effort to paint this, you can try to paint it and might not even be wrong, that it's just another money grab from the owners. But I'm going to go out on this limb and say that among baseball fans, the 12 or 15 left, that 90%, if there was a poll, 90, maybe 95% of them in this case would be with the owners. Because if you break down, and we started to last week, maybe in not as much depth as we should have, the details of their proposal, what's outlandish about it? The more I look at it, the more I talk to people and read things, what is all that outlandish about a floor of $171 million? And will you double check Major League Baseball payrolls? Are the lowest still in the 40s? Is there anybody in the 40s and 50s? Because historically, I think there have been. But even us, that's 50 million. Where are we at now? 120? Are we even at that? I don't remember where
right now. Well, according to
Wikipedia?
No, Spotrac, Spotrac, whatever, however you want to pronounce it.
Right.
They have us at basically 107 right now. I think Gleeman had us a little bit higher.
Okay.
But in terms of...
All right, so that's 60. You're right. Then that would be, let's just say a round number of 60. Mm-hmm. But we're not at the bottom, are we?
No.
What's the lowest?
We are 22nd. We're in the bottom third.
Yes, of course.
The lowest, the Marlins,
right,
at 80 million.
80 million, okay.
Cleveland, 600,000 ahead of them at 80.9.
Okay. So what I'm saying is you have some teams that have been in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s that would have to double and more the amount of money they spend on payroll as the floor in this deal. And what's the max? I think the max, at least at the front end, that owners have talked about is $245 million.
Yes, 245.3.
Now, even I can do the math. 245 minus 171 is what? Isn't that a gap of about 70 million?
About 70, yep.
That's a lot, too. So who are you kidding? I don't even know. I mean, the union can try to do the old, even Lavelle did a little bit too much of this with us on Friday. Well, the owners are making it sound like, they're doing it for one reason when they're actually doing it for. It doesn't matter in this, in the public relations tug of war on this one. Players are dead. Now, maybe they'll say, we don't care, and we're going to stand by our principles, and we don't believe in a salary cap, blah, 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 blah. But you tell me if even people who believe generally in player freedom and players getting what they deserve, you're going to tell me that a floor that is double what some of the worst teams spend as a is a bad thing for Major League Baseball? And that's where I think the owners were smart. It would have been easy, I think, for the union to dismiss it if the floor was like, I don't know, you pick the number, 100 million, 110, even 120, and say, yeah, of course. Yeah, that what good is that? How are players going to make money off of that or in that? But when your floor is 170, that's a legitimate number that we should at least be able to talk about. So I defy anybody from the union to explain how they think they're going to win. If this gets ugly and this gets dirty and it ends up with a lockout or it ends up that another season gets canceled, whose side most baseball fans, what's left of them, are going to be on? I don't even think this time it's close. There are other aspects of, they're having to do with revenue sharing, national TV. There's a lot of meat on the bone, I guess. And does that mean it's perfect? Probably not. But as an opening shot across the bow, I think it's a stroke of baseball. Baseball's leadership gets ripped forever. A lot, and rightly. It often can't get out of its own way, right? But in this case, I even think some ball guys are a little bit surprised and a little bit impressed. And ultimately, maybe, as I said, the union won't care about winning the public relations war. And what we also don't know is how dug in the owners are willing to be on the issue of a cap per se. But again, I look at these numbers and I go, well, those are considerable numbers. I think the percentages work out pretty well. Aren't they 50-50 kinds of numbers as well? That's what they're hoping for, yeah. At least in that range? Yep. So hit the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line, 64686. What's greedy about that? Well, let me back up. It could well still be greed that is motivating owners. I think that's a different question. That's not the question we're asking here. If over and over we have ball fans and ball guys saying the current format, the current structure cannot stand. It just can't. Why not? And it's not workable. There are too many teams. It encourages too many teams to never be required to try to field a Major League Baseball team. And we got to do something about it. So whether I don't think the average fan cares if at the end of it the owners are actually going to end up making more money. I don't even know what the calculus would be there. Because again, you've got a couple teams. The Dodgers spend, is it about $500 million? Right now, their payroll's, $300 million. Luxury taxes and things like that. Yep. So, yeah, they're going to that extent, take a hit. They're still going to have the opportunity, though, to spend more money than the people stuck at 170. And I read the press releases. I've read them all before. It's almost like they got the same press release they get out every time when the owners come up with their first proposal. And a lot of times, over the years, it's made sense. You're going to have to get new material. Your old material about greed and about this is not about the owners trying to create a more balanced playing field. You can, whatever you try, you think you've been able to get away with before, this proposal, I think, demands some seriousness in a response. Now, maybe they'll be creative with it and come up with something too, but so far it's the usual. Well, don't trust them. We're the most powerful sports union in the world. We are a trendsetter. We don't cave. Owners are greedy, blah, blah, and blah. I don't even know how you could sell it to your own constituents. Maybe the top-end guys, you could say, well, you might take a bit of a hit. But aren't there a lot of players who are going to scratch their heads and go, well, wait a minute. If the minimum's now $170 million, and you've got a number of teams. How many teams are between 80 and 120 million? How many teams? So if you add up those teams.
Between 80 and 120.
Well, the bottom, I guess, about 120. How many teams is that?
About 10.
That's 10?
Yeah.
That's a lot of teams. That's a lot of money.
12 would have to get up to the floor, at least 12. 12 or 13.
Yeah. So if you're a player and you're not a superstar, you go, wait a minute now. I'm not going to have a better slice of the pie under this situation? So, again, we don't hear a lot from the ball guy community because we're disconnected from the game of baseball.
We're not ball guys.
Largely. Well, we are, but then the team is as well on the basis of how it played. It's playing and existing, notwithstanding a dramatic grand slam that propelled us to victory over the much-hated Chicago White Sox last night at Target Field. But if you are at all connected, aren't you going, what? I'm supposed to be mad at the owners in this case? That's the reflex again. It fits a lot. Historically, maybe it has fit. Ain't fitting on this at all. This actually sounds at least a good starting point. All right, we got to get on schedule because we got a 3:15 guest. I'm already about 2 minutes late. We're going to check in not with Mike Tice, but with Nate Tice today, who has carved out a wonderful football analysis fiefdom, so to speak. We'll get into everything with him. Vikings, Kyler Murray, new general manager, and who knows what else. He is next right here on what we like to call the sports leader, KFAN.
This
Well, this is how old I am. I used to co-host a program, a very controversial program, very successful program as well, called Mike Tice Live on the Fan, in which at that point, Vikings head coach and I would chat about the team, often argue, never come to blows, because I was smart enough to know I would lose that, of course, rather quickly. And now, who do we have on today via the Connecticut Water Systems Hotline? But Nate Tice. How are you, sir? Thanks for giving us a minute or two.
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Uh-oh. Looks like we got some, unfortunately, some audio issues. We're getting a bit of feedback and echo. Guardsy's working on it here in the other room here. How do you guys want to proceed? Do you want to just...
We're going to have to tap dance for a second.
Okay. We'll tap dance. We're going to try to get him back. Nate writes for Yahoo Sports, NFL Network. He has created, in a very short period of time, an excellent football analyst reputation. And that is utterly and completely separate from his father in that regard. And so the intent here is to catch up on a number of pretty important issues, many of them related to your favorite football team. I say your, meaning the Vikings fans out there, the Minnesota Vikings. We'll talk about the new GM. We'll talk about Kyler Murray. Like his dad, in one way, Nate's a meat and potatoes guy, so we may spend some time, as urged by a couple of texters, to talk about the offensive and defensive lines of the club. Because as much as we are fascinated by the quarterback discussion, we all know basically what's up front ends up often telling the tale. Nate, we got you back. I apologize for the technical issues. We're trying to get everything squared away. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, awesome. Much, much better. You sound great.
Yeah.
I had the long preamble. So when I was co-hosting Mike Tice Live, how old were you? I don't even remember.
High school age.
High school age.
So, yeah, 14, 16, somewhere around that age.
So did you listen much to the show? I mean, what was your approach? It can be hard. Now, you're a football guy, obviously, but
yeah,
it can be hard because, the heat comes early and often. It's your father. So did you get immersed in it? Did you walk away from it a lot? Or, for example, were you a regular listener of the Mike Tice Live program?
I usually had sports. So I wasn't listening to that. But,
it was fun, man.
It also, it depended on what happened on Sunday or Monday as how well the rest of the week went anyways. I wouldn't watch any TV at all if we lost a game because it's just like, why would I want to watch highlights of Brett Favre throwing that score or Nate Poole or something of that sort? Just see it over and over again. But you mentioned you guys almost came to blows, but he did invite you to Bunny's for his 50th birthday.
We never, in all seriousness, the great thing about working with your dad in that job, and I maintained for a coach's show while the coach was still coaching, that's as good a show as ever appeared. I do say with all due respect, and that's not me. That's because your dad would mix it up. He would not lose his mind. You could argue with him. You could kind of battle him a little bit, challenge him, and he would fire back, but he accepted it, as sort of part of the deal. Yeah. And that's what made that show so much fun. I think the world of your dad, and that was a big reason why, for sure.
No, he loved doing that with you, and it was unique. In season,
yes,
live.
Yes.
I think you guys had a hotline.
We did. Randy Moss once called in. Yeah,
very normal.
Yes,
very normal. I think my dad is a big sports fan.
Yes,
not just football and basketball is his first love. You should see him talking about the Knicks right now.
Oh, I bet you he's excited,
Front center on that bandwagon.
It's a great story.
It is. And so I do think that that's what was an appeal of it. And of course he liked you. So he's going to come back at people he likes.
That's the beauty of it for sure. All right. Where do we begin? We got a lot of ground to try to cover. Let's start with the news, that will be made official. The first press conference is scheduled, I believe, for tomorrow. Nolan Teasley will be introduced as the latest Minnesota Vikings general manager. What can you tell us? With all the work and all the connections you have, what are your impressions of this hire?
Personnel is a lot of winners hold the pen. So, trying to evaluate guys before they run a team, it's like, it sounds great right now.
Yep.
Or afterwards, it was like, I was the Tom Brady guy. I was the guy that found this selection, yada, yada. So it's hard for me from an outside perspective, but what I have heard and have gathered is that he is a true personnel guy, more X's and O's scout guy. And actually, the relationship, I think, with everybody reminds me a little bit of when my dad was there with Rob Brzezinski and Scott Studwell. Along with my dad, where it was a triumvirate. Mm-hmm. So I kind of come with those decisions. This is more highly paid triumvirate than that group was 20 years ago. So Rob's gotten a few raises since then. But I do think that that's the same type of thing that they're going for. And coming from the Seahawks, Seahawks kind of do their own thing. And I mean that in a good way, where they're comfortable taking and identifying players that maybe are against type or against where people would take them. They took a running back this last year. Yep. They have taken linebackers. Not to say that they don't. They've also taken Charles Cross in the top 10. They are just going to take talent. And I think for this team that has such good coaches, and who knows what happens with Brian Flores with what's going on with the NFL, so he might be here for a while.
Sure.
But play callers that have an identity. So now you get the talent evaluator to kind of pair that with the scheme stuff, and then Rob running the money stuff. So just looking at it from the outsider's perspective, I really like the idea of what they went for, and with the guy that doesn't have a lot of crossover with who's currently in Minnesota.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that.
I do too.
Then you don't kind of get in locks, or kind of groupthink, I should say. And I kind of like that when you're trying to build a organization.
The hard part, and this might be unanswerable at this point, is we're all trying to get a handle on division of power. I mean, because I'm enough of a traditionalist that I tend to believe in you hire a general manager or president of football operations, and he's in charge. And he may inherit a coach because of the circumstance. He may inherit some other people, but ultimately he's going to make those calls. All of the statements we've gotten from the Wilfs thus far almost makes it sound like, well, we're all in this, it's all kind of shared here, and he's going to fit in and doing this, and we kind of put all this stuff together. Is that model workable? Do you think, or do you think, some people have speculated that he wouldn't have taken the job, given where he came from, if he didn't have some assurance that he had a pretty good amount of authority. What do you think about all that?
You can tell a lot by who they say has control of the final 53, and who's active. I have not seen reporting on that, but that will indicate a lot. And usually that's a carrot to dangle. And I'm not sure if KOC would be a guy to give away that carrot. So that,
Yes.
so I'm curious. I have not seen reporting. So that would tell me a lot. And when they say so-and-so has, if it's KOC to control the final 53, all right, I kind of know. Kind of know who leans, who has the tiebreaker, who has the trump card. It is significant that they say that he is reporting directly to the Wilfs. So you're already seeing some division of power there. And again, this is me as an outsider.
Sure.
Could these guys and these teams and these players and these coaches and GMs, they speak in code, but you can kind of see the context clues of everything.
Yeah.
So those are the indicators for me. Is once they say who controls the final 53, who, as far as the roster, who controls actives and inactives on game day, that will tell me who kind of has final say, the ace in the hole, no matter when it comes down to these decisions. But I will say, just from an outsider's perspective, these coaches are going to have a lot of say on this as far as the players that they go after. Even if you just look at this draft class, I know this is before this new GM was here.
Yep.
And how much that's those are definitely coaches' picks. And I mean that in a good way. But I understood why they took them all with Brian Flores and KOC maybe pressing their thumb on the scales.
Well, you raise another interesting question because the vibe, even when it was assumed that things were better than they ended, obviously, with Kwesi, was that part of what he seemed willing to do was concede a little more, accept a high level of input, both from KOC and from Flores, right? And in theory, it sounded like, okay, well, then maybe that formula will work. I look at it, though, and it worries me a little because I am enough of a traditionalist to say, all right, you certainly want to take feedback. You're communicating constantly. You want to work with your coach and with a successful defensive coordinator. But is that problematic at all? I mean, because then I'm asking, well, then why don't we just promote, KOC and put him pretty much in charge of everything if you're going to defer to him as much as we seem to be doing so in this organization?
I think they're trying to, I wouldn't say appease, but I think they're trying to check a lot of boxes here. One, we got a guy that's outside the groupthink, of potential groupthink, I should say, coming from somewhere else. Two, he's directly reporting to the Wilfs. Okay, then we have that kind of, I'm trying to think of the way, it's like kind of I want to say a shield, but there's one extra step we're adding.
Yes.
Into the hierarchy and into the process, into the chain of command. And I think that's the line of thinking is that, because then if you say, hey, we're just promoting KOC, it's like, all right, this is it. Because then you're not really getting any new outside brain, outside executive, because they just go, well, it's KOC's show. Why would I go there to be the de facto assistant GM in sense? Some guys like that. Some guys are okay with that. We see what's happening in New York, but that's a guy that was already there, Joe Shane, who was like, nah, I'll keep my job as opposed to someone coming in new. And also, again, looking at context clues, you look at the crop of GMs that they were looking at, or potential GMs, execs that they were looking at, they interviewed, it's a good group. And guys that came from successful organizations, Rams, Texans. So this is a team, or I should say outsiders are looking at as a good spot, even if they have question marks at the quarterback position, because KOC, even if he has a lot of say and Flores has a lot of say, these GMs also know, or potential GMs know, well, they're going to win me a lot of games as long as I give them the right ingredients, because they can make a lot out of nothing. So that is an appeal. Outside of quarterback, it is the head coach you're working with. And again, I got to see who has that final say on the 53. I bet it would be KOC still has it. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But that's one of the things that they're trying, like I said, trying to check a lot of boxes. But that's another thing is that KOC is an appeal. Even if he has a lot of say, how good of a coach he is, that's going to attract people that want to win a lot of games.
Nate Tice, kind enough to join us. You know about the big quarterback change here. You know what kind of season McCarthy had, and that it terrified the organization enough they said, we got to hedge. I think within the organization, there were some people who wanted to hedge last year. That didn't work out all that well. They're hedging their bets this year with a guy who's been, I think, a starter. He was a starter for 7 years, but had a very uneven series of performances in Arizona. So what's the official Nate Tice position on Kyler Murray?
I'm very bullish on Kyler with KOC in this year. Mentioning, just even if you just go even before into X's and O's and play styles and all that, just even personal narrative or human narrative, like I think Kyler and KOC have chips on their shoulders. And so I think there's a lot of incentive for both of them to prove a lot of people wrong. And I think these are competitive guys that I'm not just making this up and doing fan fiction here. I think that's a real thing. But even getting into it, I think people are like, wow, this fit, Kyler is terrible now. They've seen the end. Cardinals aren't in a lot of primetime games. It's been a lot of uneven seasons with him at the helm, multiple head coaches now. He stirred the drink for a lot of that time. It was not a great roster while he was there. Even when he was there with Cliff Kingsbury, it was a microwaved personnel, a lot of vets,
right.
AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins, JJ Watt. It was even the offensive system Cliff Kingsbury had him in was it let him hit the ground running, but didn't ask him to do a lot of real quarterback things. And then enter Drew Petzing, Jonathan Gannon. And I would say 2024, we got to see Kyler in a more quote unquote real NFL system under center, play action, progressing throughout the entire field, not no huddle every single snap like a Cliff Kingsbury. And this guy, I'll use some advanced stats here, but he played like a top 10, top 12 quarterback, 9th in QBR, 8th in success rate, which is a stat. It's actually a coach's stat, but now it's considered a nerd stat, funnily enough. And then 13th in EPA, which is expected points added. So I would say, even if just safe number there, top 12 quarterback play. If the Vikings with last year's roster, who finished with a winning record with bottom 5 quarterback play, had top 12 quarterback play, that's a team that's competing for the division. And that's how I feel about them this year. And also just there's other circumstances with the NFC North that this is probably another discussion, but he can run a real NFL offense that asks him to be under center, that asks him to use play action, and also something we haven't seen in a few years because it's kind of gotten beaten out of him and kind of the personnel of the Cardinals doesn't allow this to happen. Kyler's a great deep ball thrower. He has some similarities to Russell Wilson where they're undersized, but he has that baseball background, so they know how to loop those deep throws. And who's great down the field? Justin Jefferson. And just what Justin Jefferson's good at, which is everything, is going to fit with Kyler, I think, a lot better. And he has the creation ability on top of it, on top of those deep throws. He can run the ball really well. In 2024, his stats were all better than Sam Darnold. Not the box score stats, but the advanced underlying numbers, the per metrics, per snap metrics. They were better than Sam Darnold. And so that's why I'm pretty dang optimistic about the Vikings overall, but also with Kyler in this offense. We did a quarterback draft on my show, Football 301, and I picked Kyler at 16th overall for just this season. And I think that's fair of what I expect out of this season. Not top 5 play, but top half of the league play. And that's really what this team needs. And I think that's really cool what it could become.
Is McCarthy redeemable?
Yeah, no, but yes. The small, everyone's redeemable, but the chances of it are slim. There's just so much mechanical stuff with him that needs and I know this has been talked ad nauseum because I've so many Vikings people I follow on Twitter, and so I get to see all you guys pulling your hair out and just everything going south. But there's so much that needs to be reworked with him as far as mechanically that a project like that, what is the upside of that? Is it just a Kirk Cousin quality starter, which I mentioned Sam Darnold's the 16th best starter? Is it worth the time on task to do that? Or a roster that I think is ready built to at least win 10 games? Do you have the patience for that for a guy that might be a whole nother year of time away? So I just think it's not that he's not redeemable, but he just might not be redeemable in Minnesota just because of the current timeline. And that might just be looking narrow for just this season. But man, it was pretty rough last year. It was not only just in some decision making stuff, but also just the process to get there was just like there's a long ways to go with his decision making as a quarterback.
Over the years, I still occasionally would get a text from your dad during a Vikings game, and usually it would read, "Run the bleeping ball." Classic Mike Tice. I love it. But in all honesty, he's a meat and potatoes guy. I think you are to a certain degree as well. And as much as we're fixated on this quarterback soap opera, line of scrimmage, man, it matters pretty much with any good to very good team. So give me your best cold analysis of an offensive line that I still think has some questions at center for sure. And even what they've done defensive line, including, of course, they made the move. They traded away Grenard.
I'll start with offensive side because I'm an offensive guy and I'm a hack. I think even just before you even get the offensive line, the Juwan Jennings signing was awesome. Like Vikings fans, you're going to love him because he is just such a gritty blocker. Might be I know this is niche, but might be the best blocking wide receiver in the NFL. And there's a reason for that. That really helps out the run game, especially a guy with Aaron Jones that likes to get to the outside.
Yep.
Like that's for Juwan Jennings. He's going to be that power slot. But then the O-line, they do have questions at center. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. The rest of the line, and again, this is the big if healthy, they have a chance to be at least top half of the league, even with those question marks at center. You can't rely on Darisaw to play entire season. You just can't. But that's where Caleb Tiernan, their 3rd round pick, comes in. Tackle that shorter arms, but good size, but he can play both sides. He has experience playing left side and right side. For an offensive line that usually misses time or has tackles missing time, that's great. A guy that has at least some swing versatility. Relying on a 3rd round rookie isn't ideal, but again, this is the best of a bad bunch you're kind of going with. But Donovan Jackson looks like a high-end starter. Like a very good guard. Like there were some real stretches last year. I know he battled injuries too, but stretches last year where he had some dominant run play, and really this offensive line too. This was the best run game KOC had since he's been the Vikings head coach. The highest rushing success rate, which is again that stat I'll use again. So success rate is just half the yards needed on 1st and 2nd down, all the yards needed on 3rd and 4th down. So like getting 5 yards on 1st and 10. That's a successful play. It was the best run game that KOC ever had with the running backs was last year with the Vikings. And you could see the difference with Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, but they're getting some real movement with that offensive line. So that's another thing that why Kyler fell apart last year was their run game fell apart last year in Arizona. But if you have that balance with the run game, Kyler's legs added to it, that's going to create just a little bit more room for error, I think, for the O-line because of having Kyler's maneuverability back there. So I will say that it's not the best offensive line, but I think healthy. It's pretty good, even with the question mark at center.
How about defense up front?
And then defense, I see. So last year when they signed the 2 veterans, Jonathan Allen and Hargrave, I understood what they were trying to do, but also I was kind of going like, them, because they were trying to get guys that could truly win one-on-one without Flores' scheme opening up stuff that they can disrupt on their own. This is essentially what the Myles Garrett trade was. Hey, we can do a lot with our scheme with Chris Shula, but let's get the guy that can just win one-on-one because that's what the playoffs becomes. Can you win one-on-one? So this is what they did with this draft. They got guys that have high upside in Caleb Banks. My co-host, Charles McDonald, that was he had him as a top 10 player. I viewed Banks as a top 25 player. The talent of Banks is like, I've been trying to find comparisons for him. He has rare skills and rare traits. It's just about health and consistency. But I understood why they went for it because he's disruptive. He can move on Brian Flores' kind of funky scheme, but he also can push the pocket and just dominate one-on-one. Some of his best play is some of the best of his entire draft at any position. And I wholeheartedly mean that. Not just saying that I'm on the Vikings show, but it's just that, hey, he's not even playing right now. I don't believe. I think he missed early practices already because of injuries. That's his big thing. And you don't like foot injuries with big guys, but there's risk. But man, there's that window. They're possible what he could become is all pro level talent. It's just that, it's a 5% chance, but it's there. There's star qualities there, but that's what they're trying to go for. We want guys that can win one-on-one without Flores throwing a knuckleball. And then also that's the same with Dominique Orange, who a guy I had as a top 50 player in this draft class, top 50, top 55 or so. But he was a guy that in Iowa State's scheme asked him to move a lot, side to side, side to side. So he didn't have a lot of production. Who asked their nose tackles to move a lot? Brian Flores. And then on top of it, though, I think Orange can win one-on-one when he has to push the pocket. So I really love those draft picks because I understood why they went for them. And then the totality of the defense. I love Jalen Redmond. I have him as a breakout player this year. I wish he changed his number, but I really do like him as well. And then Dallas Turner had flashes last year. That's why they were comfortable moving on when they made the trade. But I do think that the defense and the defensive line is good and a little bit more dynamic than what we've seen because they can actually win some one-on-ones. Potentially. This is all mystery boxes, but I do like what they're trying to go for at least.
Lastly, let's wrap up with your early look or opinion of the division. The division is perceived as being deep and very good, largely on what we've seen, but you know how things can shift from year to year very quickly, sometimes based on schedule, injuries, other things come up. Just sustaining excellence is not always that easy for teams, even teams on the come like the Bears. How do you perceive, do you view, in terms of pecking order, is there one plateau at the top, two? How do you view this division, at least at this point?
All four in the exact same tier. Which is, I know it kind of sounds like a cop-out answer, but like even if I just look at like basic odds, betting odds right now, the Vikings are at plus 525, so 5-1 to win the division. I would have them much shorter than that because they have a much more of a puncher's chance. Like, cause, all right, looking just division by right now, the Lions are the favorite. The Lions are still reworking their offensive line. Their defense still has some question marks, and then like how they reestablish their offense and defensive lines. Yes, it might work out in a year, just like the question marks we have with some of these Vikings younger guys. The Lions have those questions in the trenches as well. Losing David Montgomery, who yes is a running back too. How important is that? That's important for a Lions team that runs the ball so much and does as much as they do. They have some interesting weapons. Isaac Tesla is really cool. Jameson Williams has had moments, but he's been a little inconsistent. They have Petsing, new offensive coordinator, who I think is more like a B hire, but some people thought it was an F. I do like the hire, but I do think they have more questions on defense as well. Just some of the stuff I like, they have some beef in the middle, but the defensive ends outside of Aiden Hutchinson aren't great, but they have questions is what I'm trying, long the short of that is. Same with the Packers. The Packers didn't really reload this year. They added Hargrave, but they kind of just went neutral. They said, hey, Micah Parsons will get healthy. Jordan Love will get healthy. I know he got banged up at the end of last year. The rest of our team will shore it up, but their offensive line has some question marks. Their running back just got in trouble. They have to reestablish their receiving core and figure out what the pecking order is. Tucker Kraft is coming off an injury. All players I really like, but those are question marks. And same with the defense. They have Jonathan Gannon as a defense coordinator, a new defense coordinator. And that defense, especially without Micah Parsons, it was like bottom 5 last year. So it's not like there's a whole bunch of personnel there. Great. Still like them. But again, it's more questions than people think. And same with the Bears. Bears have offensive line questions. They have a new center, a former Viking, Garrett Bradbury. Right. And then a left tackle. They have no idea who's playing left tackle right now. That's important because that offensive line was so dominant last year. And then I think I am pretty bullish on them overall and Ben Johnson overall, but the defensive line has questions for them as well. So that's why I think it's just as even because, again, I think I'm higher on Kyler than pretty much everyone nationally. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on a Minnesota show, but the highs of the Vikings and their offense this year is just as good as anybody. It's just now just making sure that stay healthy. That's really it. I mean, it's with the offensive line, but yeah, I know I sound like I'm just doing me like a homerism, but seriously, I've been very much on the Vikings train this year. And very much on Kyler train this year, way more than I think nationally is right now. Anybody else is.
I want to know what you're thinking. Garzi reminds me you're a huge Timberwolves rube. So if you were given like one free phone call to Tim Conley, of course, runs the Wolves, on what the quote unquote big move is going to be, because even Conley all but acknowledged we're going to do something. We're going to have to do something here. The status quo is probably not going to work for us. What's the one big Nate Tice dream move for the Wolves this offseason?
Get the Greek. I mean, get him to the Greek. No, I honestly, if I got to interview any exec in any sport, it'd be Tim Connolly because I think he's brilliant and also just a great talent evaluator. Like Yohan Berenger, like we're talking about the Greek right now. We might have a Greek at home. Mm-hmm. I know he's French, but no. But I would say I think Giannis. You look at Wemby. You look at what's going on in the West. Even with the Thunder have their own questions too. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the if you want the big swing, that's obvious big swing. Can you do it?
That's the
Probably
question.
Not.
Yeah.
But there's other interesting answers out there, like Kyrie. Mm-hmm. That's another one. And then if you really want to buy low and just hopefully an upside pick, that's Ja Morant. But they need another guy that can just do stuff with the ball in his hands. That's a football term, but more do stuff with the ball in his hands in playoff time, because I just think that kind of keeps cropping up. But man, they had such a good roster this year, and they just ran into a juggernaut that's called Wemby.
He is ridiculous. There's no question about that. And I think the only thing people can hope for in the conference is, that his body is such that he gets worn down, or, you don't ever root for somebody getting hurt.
Keeps throwing elbows.
But yeah, he does do that, doesn't he? That's for sure.
Bait him.
Those elbows. That may be the answer. You're right. That's it. I appreciate the time. Good to catch up. Hope we can do it again soon, Nate. Thanks a lot. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
Absolutely. Thanks. Nate Tice helping us out. The second generation of Tices on the Bumper to Bumper program, going all the way back to the old Mike Tice live days. Back in just a minute.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barreiro on the Fan.
Keep listening for the next.
Help me out, Garzi. Who is the Dominique football analyst on ESPN?
Dominique Foxworth?
I think that's exactly who I'm talking about. And it's fascinating just listening, wrapping up our conversation with Nate Tice, who is very high on the Kyler Murray experiment.
I almost hit Super Bowl homeboy.
Pretty close, because that's why this whole chapter is going to be fascinating to follow. There's such, among the experts, a wide variety of opinion. And I think we've proven again today that we're willing to bring on anybody, no matter what the opinion is. We had Tim Collishaw on, and a while ago, he demanded an audience on this show to destroy
That's right.
Kyler Murray. But we didn't stop there. I mean, we've had other people, including Nate Tice, who's in love with him. And I bring it up again because it was a topic this morning, and a bit of a debate broke out, a little bit of an argument broke out between Dominique and your guy, the former Lions quarterback. What's his name? Orlovsky. Here's the quote from Orlovsky. Kyler Murray ain't better than Sam Darnold. As much as I love you, Dom, he ain't. So that's why this is getting juicy already, and it's just turned June, that there's such a wide variance of opinion across the board among people I generally respect on what Kyler represents. The home run would be what Tice alluded to. And he's certainly not the first to say it, but it's the belief that part of the reason Kyler ended up with a reputation as an underachiever over the course of his starting career in Phoenix or in Arizona was teams weren't very good. You know, we talk about the best quarterbacks are to elevate, but there are limits even to that. And I think those are the people who are saying he's going to be a revelation here because it's a much better organization. It's not a Super Bowl organization, but it's a better organization with some real offensive weapons, the quarterback whisperer, etc. I think that's a little easy for me, but that's the ongoing. So this will be, if you're putting together like top 10 NFL stories on who's going to work out at this position, this trade, whatever, the Kyler Murray decision is absolutely top 10. It might be top 5. I'm talking about nationally.
Well, given that they're playing that hit and have been since the combine.
Yes.
When all of this was rumored that the Vikings were interested in him. Yes, we are Grand Central Station right now. Maybe not in the way we wanted to be. Maybe not in the way you would prefer to be. I thought the most interesting thing Nate said was, what was your favorite J.J. McCarthy moment? He basically said.
Yeah, he did. What was the percentage he said? Was it 5%? No,
that was a different thing.
That was a different
thing.
About. Yeah, but it was
that was our draft pick being all pro.
But the faint praise was, at best, if everything goes better for him and he figures some things out, he's top 15 quarterback.
He's Kirk O'Chains,
and that's really not what that's not why we were excited about moving up to get him in the draft. On the other hand, let me ask you this: looking back on it, he also said, as much as he's high on Kyler Murray, he said about 15.
Yeah.
Now, that's not even top 10. Now, again, you could say, well, that's better than last year. And that was, I think, he's grading on the curve of if you put a top 15 quarterback with last year's team, they're automatically in the playoffs. But then we're back to, are they going anywhere with it? You know, I don't know. I mean, I thought he was going to be willing to say, guess what? He's going to brush the top 10. That's how good he can be. Top 15 is a middle-of-the-road quarterback, right? Is that going to excite us? Because if that's what he represents, if at the end of this season that's how he's viewed, do you think the Vikings are going to re-sign him? Is that enough to re-sign him? I don't know. I'm not sure.
It again goes back to alternatives.
Yeah, that's true.
And they were also burned by not signing Sam Darnold, obviously.
Right.
Because he just won a Super Bowl with Seattle. Yeah. I just thought it was interesting hearing him talk about all the things J.J. McCarthy has to fix.
Has to work on, yeah.
And that goes back to them. Why were they doing it this way to begin with? Like, I'm not against drafting him. I'm not against any of that. But if he was as much of a project as he appears to be,
then you don't play him for 3 years.
Exactly right. Yeah. Then they completely overplayed their hand.
Yes.
A year and a half ago.
Well, Seifert said it. What day was he in? Monday? Yesterday?
Yes.
They miscalculated his floor. His floor was a lot lower than they thought, and that's speaking to what you're talking about. That what Tice is talking about. That fundamentally, there's a million things that have to get corrected. So if you believe that, then it was the ultimate in hubris and arrogance to think we can start him from the beginning. We can hand him the job from day one, and that's more on them than it's on him.
Agreed.
That's what we have to. I've had fun taking my shots at the player himself, but that's more on them if there's that big of a gap, because they clearly expected to play him immediately. Now, we can argue about whether they thought deep down Daniel Jones was coming back and that was going to be their hedge a year ago, but they thought, we can do this, we can make this thing work, and it was not even close.
I would also add the quarterback trainers and the special quarterback schools that Gessling wrote about last year, they might want to take him off their pamphlets. And they might want to rethink some of it, because that's what this guy grew up to be a quarterback, right? And he's been going to trainers since he was a fetus. It's like, okay, well then how are there still this many issues? Not saying he needs to be Brett Favre in his prime or Aaron Rodgers in his prime, but fundamentally, how are there still this many issues at this, now that, after he's gone through all of that, I'm just confused by all of it.
Let's make this the top of the hour break. Louis in studio. Is that correct?
Yes, on his birthday.
Third straight week, and in this case, his, I think he's turning, is it 64? Maybe 65, something like that. We'll get into all that with him. He is scheduled for the 5 o'clock hour. Keep the text going. We got a lot of text to review from the first hour of the program. We'll get into a couple of those items and maybe even a little A-section stuff in hour number 2.
You're listening to Barreiro on the Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Luggage World.